All right, today we're diving into one of the darkest and most tangled scandals in recent American history. And we're going to start not with a person, but with a place.
So picture this. It's 1998, and this 75-acre private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, Little St. James, gets bought. I mean, from the outside, it was pure paradise. We're talking beautiful beaches, luxury villas, a couple of swimming pools, even its own helipad, the whole 9 yards. But that beautiful facade was hiding an absolutely horrific secret. You see, the locals on the other islands nearby, they had a different name for it. They called it Pedophile Island, because it was a place where girls, some as young as 12, were allegedly trafficked and abused, trapped on an island with no way out. And the guest list for this island? Well, it reads like a who's who of the world's most powerful people. You've got British royalty like Prince Andrew, famous scientists like Stephen Hawking, politicians, world leaders, billionaires. And it just raises this chilling question, right? Who knew what was really going on there? The man who owned this island was, of course, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, his story is wild. He starts out as a math teacher in Brooklyn and somehow, someway, launches himself into the stratosphere of high finance. He becomes this multi-millionaire with a Rolodex that includes former presidents and prime ministers. So how did a story this dark ever even come to light? And maybe more importantly, how did a man with these kinds of connections get protected by the very system that's supposed to bring people like him to justice? Well, the whole thing started to unravel back in March of 2005. It all began with the bravery of one 14-year-old girl and her parents, who filed a police report in Florida. And that one complaint, well, it was like pulling a thread that just unspooled this horrifying organized system of abuse. By 2006, the FBI was involved, and they were building a massive case. And we need to be clear, this wasn't random. This was a calculated, predatory pyramid scheme. It would start with an offer, a couple $100 for a so-called massage, but that led to abuse by Epstein. Then, the girl would be paid extra to bring her own friends into this nightwear. It created this awful, self-feeding network. So with testimony from 36 underage victims, dozens of witnesses, and a 53-page FBI report outlining charges of international sex trafficking, you'd think the case was a slam dunk, right? For pretty much any other person on the planet, this would mean life in prison, no question. But here's where the story takes a really dark turn. Behind closed doors, Epstein's money and power were working overtime. The federal attorney in Miami at the time, a guy named Alexander Acosta, cut this secret deal. It gave Epstein and his co-conspirators total immunity from all federal charges, and they kept it completely hidden, even from the victims, which is actually against the law. So, for crimes that should have landed him behind bars for life, Epstein got a sentence of just 18 months. And it wasn't even a real sentence. He got to serve it in a private wing of a county jail, and get this, he had work release. He could leave for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, to go to his office. In the end, he only served 13 months. So for almost 10 years, that was it. The story just went cold. Epstein went right back to his life of private jets and island parties, but one investigative journalist just refused to let the truth be buried. Her name is Julie K. Brown. And in 2018, her investigative series for the Miami Herald called Perversion of Justice was an absolute bombshell. She found the victims who had been ignored for years, and she laid out in meticulous detail not just what Epstein did, but how the system itself had failed and protected him. Brown's reporting kicked up a storm of public outrage that was just too big to ignore. So in July 2019, Epstein was arrested again, this time on federal sex trafficking charges. But then came the final shocking twist. Just a month later, he was found dead in his jail cell. The official ruling was suicide, but his death meant he'd never face his accusers in court, and it lit a fire under all sorts of conspiracy theories. Epstein's death wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot. In fact, it was the beginning of a political firestorm that reached all the way to the highest levels of power in America. So, heading into the election, Donald Trump, who'd known Epstein for years, actually promised his supporters he'd release all the secret files on the case. But once he won, he did a complete 180. Suddenly, it was all just boring stuff, a Democratic hoax, and he told the FBI to worry about other things. Now, that reversal just poured gasoline on the fire of suspicion. because when a tiny fraction of the files were finally forced into the open by public pressure, they were filled with damaging allegations against Trump himself. Flight logs and email where Epstein claims Trump knew about the girls, you name it. And among those documents, this letter was found, signed J. Epstein, written while Trump was in office. I mean, it draws this chilling direct line between Epstein and the sitting president. Now, the Justice Department came out and quickly said the letter was a fake, but just the fact that it existed was a political bombshell.
But here's the thing you have to understand. For all these shocking revelations, what we've seen so far is truly just the tip of a very, very dark iceberg. The fight for the truth here is nowhere near over.
The vast majority of the evidence the FBI collected, we're talking over 1 million documents, is still being kept under wraps by the Justice Department. This is the stuff that includes evidence against other powerful people, the infamous list of clients who visited his island. All of it.
And even the documents that we do get to see, they're a mess. It's like someone took a giant black marker and just went to town. Names, dates, entire paragraphs are blacked out. It makes it practically impossible to get the full story of who was really involved.
And all of this leaves us with the biggest, most disturbing question of all. We know the files mention presidents, prime ministers, billionaires, princes. So with over 1 million documents still secret and the rest scribbled out, you have to ask, who are the powerful people still being protected by all these secrets?